Good to go. All right, I'm going to call to order the town board meeting at the Town of Lisbon Town Hall on Monday, December 9th, 2019 at 6:32 p.m. Roll call, please.
Chairman Ostervan.
Here.
Supervisors Plotecker.
Here.
Beal.
Here.
Moonen.
Here.
And Gamino.
Here.
Also present, Town Administrator Gina Gresh.
Here.
Town Clerk Dan Green. Planner Dan Lindstrom and Waukesha County Planner Sandy Scheer.
Thank you, Dan. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Great. Now I'm going to move to item 10A, which is discussion and necessary action on the agreement between the Town of Lisbon and Clerk Rick J. Geckner, sorry about that, doing business as Synthetic Group. How you doing?
All right, so this is the agreement between the Town of Lisbon and Rick Geckner, doing business as a Synthetic Group, serving as the interim clerk and training deputy clerk Natasha John to be the next town clerk. The agreement's been reviewed and modified by our town attorney. The hourly rate proposed is $35 an hour, and compared to the current clerk's rate for wages and benefits, comes out within a buck or so difference. So we'd be spending about the same amount. It'd be a wash because he wouldn't be doing a full-time 40 hours a week. It'd be 3 days a week, but 5 days as needed with election time. And I recommend approval. Rick is here to introduce himself to everybody, and he's the retired Village of Newburgh clerk. I'll let you give a little intro if you like.
I've been doing this for 30-some years. I am a master municipal clerk, been in that position for probably 25 years. I've done other consulting work for other municipalities. The last one in Wisconsin was in Waterford. I've done some consulting work in Illinois, but I've been a clerk, deputy clerk, administrator for 30-plus years. And I'm currently on the Town Board Plan Commission where I live, so I've never been a town clerk, but I'm familiar with towns because I'm on the Plan Commission, but I've been doing city and village work for 30-plus years and retired twice. And like I said, I've been doing consulting work off and on for other municipalities on occasion, so any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Nope.
No? Well, does anyone want to make a motion?
I make a motion to hire Mr. Geckner at $35 an hour, starting
January 2nd.
January 2nd.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
You're approving that contract as Liz?
Yes.
And the second's okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I just, real quick, I have a LLC, and I've worked through it as an independent contractors, right? And the Synthetic Group is what that is. So
Yep.
Okay.
that way I'm not an employee.
Right.
We have no liability or benefits. All that's cleared.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move back to item 3, which is comments from citizens present. Does anyone wish to speak tonight? Come on up. I'll keep an eye out as I see the hands go up. I'll wave you up. Just state your name and address.
Gary Kunnick, N88W24710 North Lisbon Road. Took me 3 months to learn my address. I got it, so we're new transplants here. My wife and I are very proud and happy new residents of the town of Lisbon. Met a lot of nice people. We moved here to be closer to our jobs and escape the urban sprawl, noise, pollution, traffic, and rising crime rates in and around Kenosha. We love the nature, watching the turkeys cross the street, other wildlife in the field, and even the deer, many in the very area where this subdivision is planned that's on the agenda this evening. One issue we have on North Lisbon Road, and we bought a house that was built in 1977 in a very well thought out area there, is that people throw their beer cans and sometimes liquor bottles into the tree covered area along the road. I usually end up picking up a can or two each time I walk my dog on that road. We also have people who drive too fast on the road, which does worry me, but it's still better than city life, especially when I can look up at the stars in my backyard because they haven't disappeared due to light pollution. So I know what we have here. And that's why I'm here to speak out against this plan to build a subdivision at the corner of County Line and North Road, only a mile or so from my home. This is where I and many other residents are asking for restraint and some thoughtful common sense, and maybe just hold off on this right now. Restraint because we believe it goes against the very vision set forth by this town in the 2035 plan, leaving that area open. I ask you, what's the point of a vision and plan if it only gets changed on a whim? What are the pros of building so many more homes so close together? Is this town hurting that bad for more of a tax base? And if so, what's being done to let residents know about this? What are the alternatives to building that tax plan and that tax base right now? I'd also like to know if an environmental impact study has been done to determine how this will affect wildlife, soil runoff. You have the river there, how that could affect water levels, and noise and light pollution. I'm curious if there's been a traffic study. How many more cars will now go back and forth on that road, putting my life in danger, putting my dog's life in danger as I walk her, and how much more garbage and debris is that going to bring? How will this construction especially affect our morning and evening commutes in the roads in that area out there on County Line, which is already pretty full of traffic? I'm not against progress. I'm not against anyone wanting to live here. It's a beautiful town. That's why we moved here. I'm just against breaking that 2035 land plan just because. And, you know, I knew our town leaders had the foresight to zone this land the way they did for a reason, for the same reason that there was a plan put out to 2035. And I hope that we don't allow greed to change our vision and ruin this town. As town leaders, I thank you for the time you guys put into this. I know it's a thankless job you have, and I also know you have an obligation to listen to us and hopefully do the right thing. And I hope the right thing is what most of us feel here. And I hope you won't go through with the plan. I thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Would like to go next?
My name is Lisa Otis, O-D-D-I-S, W220N9359, Town Line Road. I was at the meeting, the Plan Commission meeting. We had a discussion, and I'm here tonight to formally register my vote that I'm opposed to this development. When I came to the meeting, Mr. Forrester brought very little to the meeting. There was very little discussion amongst the committee. The main discussion was why was land zoned for 5-acre lots. No one could remember that. And I felt that was a big problem because that committee in that same evening voted to approve the proposal to amend the long-range plan. Now, Jane Stadler, she was the only person that brought up a reason, and she said the County of Waukesha made us do it. They required us to have a certain amount of A10 zone land. No one brought up, and I think this shows rather irresponsibility of I'm actually disappointed in that committee because no one brought up the survey that occurred in 2008 where all residents were polled as the 2035 long-range plan was being adopted, was being crafted, was being designed. I think that before we decide to rezone land to approve these amendments, there needs to be some solid research about what's in the plan, what's in the long-range plan. I don't know that anyone looked at that because no one brought up the fact that residents wanted, the main thing that residents wanted, it was loud and clear from that survey and from various meetings, a rural setting, not packed subdivisions. We want open land. We want native habitats to be preserved. We want natural areas to be restored and protected and respected. And I feel like what happened on that night did not at all represent the opinion of a lot of residents in the town of Lisbon. As I said, Mr. Forrester spoke very little. There was no discussion, no Q&A. It was, talk about what happened. Why did we do this? Well, I went back to the long-range plan. I don't know if anyone's looked at that recently, but it very clearly states the first entry on the plan, and this is posted. Anyone can pick it up and look at it. Quality of life. Residents cited the rural atmosphere and the quality of schools as the top reasons they chose to live in Waukesha County. More Town of Lisbon residents said that the quality of life declined in the past 5 to 10 years, and some said it improved. Now, there's a long list of summary of that poll, and there's also all of the poll results. The land was, in my opinion, zoned 5-acre land, A10, which is now translates to, I forget what the terminology is, R5 or something, or RM. I feel that land was set aside to be preserved so that we would have natural areas. We would have wetlands. We would continue to have woodlands. We would have native plants. We would have native animals. All of the things that a lot of us residents cherish greatly. That's the reason I moved here. I work downtown Milwaukee. I work in the city. I need this balance. And if Town of Lisbon continues to, just at will approve amendments to our long-range plan, why do we have a long-range plan? Now, I know that every 10 years it can be reviewed, and if that is the direction, which I feel that may be the direction that the board is going, I think we have to do not just a meeting like this. We need to get word out to all residents. We need to offer residents the opportunity to complete another survey, to have town hall meetings so that there can be discussion. I would like to see, and I would like to trust that the people I elect to be on our board really, truly have our interests at heart and want to hear about what we want, what our vision is for this beautiful town. And I think a lot of people, development of subdivisions, that is not part of the vision and not part of the bargain. We have it laid out in that plan. Let's hold to that plan, or let's have better, more educated discussions amongst residents. The owner of that property is Right Way Bus Company. They're not Town of Lisbon residents. Mr. Forrester is not an owner. He's a developer. Now, when that was approved by the Plan Commission, I felt like there was no consideration for the Town of Lisbon residents. We had a large turnout here, and it just, after our discussion, the vote still went to approve. Many of the members had nothing to say, no discussion, waited for someone to make the motion, and it happened. So I really, really would like to see these types of amendments to not be taken so lightly. There is this actually on the agenda tonight, the Preserve at Harvest Ridge. That I knew nothing about that, and that is a huge development, and that has been amended. And just looking back in some of the old notes, there are a number of times that the plan has been amended. So I say, why do we have a plan if we're just continuing to amend it? Let's see what the residents really want, and have our elected officials carry that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Would like to go next?
Hi, Jackie Kisting, West 239, North 9142, North Road. First of all, everybody else, I agree with everybody else that they have to say, but in addition to that, I'm really concerned about our water table. With the 8 additional houses to Crooked Bridge, our water table went down 15 feet. We had to have our well reset 15 feet. We also lost a natural spring to a pond that we had in our backyard, and that was the whole reason that we bought that property. We own 12 acres off of North Road. In addition to that, we have Raceway Alley on North Road, and for any of the people that actually live on North Road know this. There is drag races on there constantly at night. Cars lining up, going towards North Lisbon. I don't know how many times we've been waiting for somebody not to make this corner and actually had a serious accident. Why that hasn't happened yet in the 30 years that we've lived out here, we're not so sure about that yet. We have a 33-foot trailer that sometimes it takes us 15 or 20 minutes to try and back into our driveway. The people are so inconsiderate because they're coming from south to north, flying over the hill. They are no longer respecting the 45-mile speed limit. They are flying up over the hill as they crest the hill. I don't know how many times we've almost gotten hit trying to back our 33-foot trailer into our driveway. It's just the traffic on that road has gotten ridiculous. In addition to that, I also raise chickens, ducks, geese. I am really worried about the noise level. I do not want to see all of a sudden 28 houses moving in next door and all of a sudden people complaining. Hello, I've been here for 30 years. I own 12 acres. As owning 12 acres, I have the right to have those ducks and geese. Just because you build next to me now, I don't want to have somebody complaining and the town coming to me and telling me that I can't have a rooster, I can't have geese. Yes, roosters and geese, they do honk. Roosters do crow, and they do make noises. But I don't want somebody moving in and all of a sudden telling me, hello, I move in here. You know, you can't have your animals anymore. We moved out here because we wanted a lot of property for our children. Our children are growing, but we do have grandchildren. They ride dirt bikes, mini bikes. We are very respectful to the neighbors behind us. At 6:30, we cut it off. But same thing, we don't want to have anybody telling us, hey, you can't ride your dirt bike in your yard, or my son can't ride his four-wheeler. My grandson can't ride the four-wheeler in the yard during the day. And also the busing issue. Our children are on these buses for an hour already. We're constantly adding more and more houses to this problem, and we're not solving that busing problem. To me, this is just, we've got to stop somewhere. We can't keep saying we're going to have 5-acre lots and then we're cutting them down. We need the land for the wildlife. We hunt off our property. What is that going to do for the people that hunt around these areas? Now we're moving in 28 houses. There's plenty of people that hunt in their neighborhood, off of their yards around this area. And that's going to cut down the hunting. There's probably going to be more deer accidents, more turkey accidents, because that population isn't going to be taken care of by the natural hunters that are bow hunting or gun hunting off their properties. And we're probably going to see more accidents that way. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hi.
Dawn Huckerman, North 95, West 23719 Hermitage Drive. I live in Lot 4, Presidential Estates. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak today. I have a couple of questions. Number one, do you know how much of the town of Lisbon land is zoned A10 under this current comprehensive 2035 plan?
Well, any questions that you have will write down and address during the item.
Okay. What is the revenue and the grant money that we're receiving under this current comprehensive guidelines until 2035? Also, in the 2020 budget, you did a really great job decreasing the overall budget to maintain the tax ratio for next year with no impact to taxation to the town residents. For that, you guys get a great gold star. You decreased all the expenses across the board, with the exception of a huge increase of $100,000 to zoning for next year. Can you tell me what that zoning fee is going to be used for? Are we going to be going through this more frequently and see more of this happening? How many more residential neighborhoods are going to be added? Can you tell me how this rezoning will better the community by making this change? Because the 28 people that showed up the first time and the additional people that showed up last time that were rescheduled have now lost faith in a town board that has done them justice for years. My husband and I are opposed to this rezoning for the following reason. The Bark River does run through the small part of the land in question. The entire field does flood out to the point where most of us lose our backyards in the rain and the spring thawing. I sent a picture to Dan Green last week when we rescheduled, showing our concerns of the water issues. You guys have that. If the new homes build higher on ground elevation, we'll be flooded even worse. It'll affect our water tables. We already have issues with that. If they build lower, then they're going to have issues. So here's my issues. The comp plan was compiled by 4 agencies through an extensive study which the town of Lisbon agreed to take. It was done with the Parks and Land Use, the University of Wisconsin Extension, Department of Agriculture, and many of these municipalities throughout Waukesha County decided that it was to their best interest to go in on this study. I believe there were only 4 or 6 that didn't go in on the study. Okay? After the municipalities joined this effort, it was to be understood that Waukesha's total growth plan under this comprehensive plan would better serve everyone. So that's why this thing was supposedly created. Now, the question still is why was this land zoned A10? And we still haven't heard an answer to that from Sandy Scherer, so I'm hoping we hear that in the second phase. The wetlands are found scattered throughout Lisbon, although north central and northeast parts of the town contain the largest and most concentrated grouping of wetlands that was part of the study. These are protected as Conservancy and Wetland Floodplain C1, and that's on your maps, okay? The groundwater is primarily a source of potable water for Lisbon residents. Lisbon residents draw water from the shallow aquifers. In eastern part of Lisbon, many residents draw from deeper residential wells. What about the cross-contamination from septic to well with that many houses going into that area? Now, this was brought up as a major concern for the last residents who attended the session. Who will pay for the 2-year follow-up testing that needs to be completed? And better yet, who foots the bill if and when this fails? Now, we talked about that too. We didn't really get an answer for that. So this was all part of the concerns with the comprehensive plan. The town of Lisbon was specifically going to create a county trail, according to that plan, proposed to run north from the Bugline Trail alongside the Bark River up to the town of Richfield. A combination town-built and developer-built trail section is proposed. Where is that going? Lisbon's long-range plans for the park and open space calls for development of additional town parks. It was brought up at the last meeting that we are not going to get any more parks. Are we getting parks or are we not getting parks? That's still a gray area too. And the Bark River, along that Bark River, was supposed to be allocated for that. Now I know that the comprehensive plan comes up for a 10-year renewal. Someone mentioned that. So we'll be interested to see what that is. This rezoning affects all of these issues. Your ordinance 08-17 simply states the Planning and Zoning Commission completed the update of the town's plan of conservation and development, the POCD as you guys call it, and after a public hearing, the commission adopted the plan that will guide development in the town over the next 10 years. Don't you think we should look at this overall plan again before we start rezoning all this land? Where's our due diligence? The town of Lisbon rezoned the land, Conservancy land, in 2009 due to the comp plan for 2035. This land was purchased in January of 2014, like someone said, from Right Way. It was already zoned as A10 land. They knew that going into it. This is not a farmer-owned land. This was a business who bought it under A10 for resale, investment purposes. Mr. Forrester does not own the land. There is no hardship among either party to remain at A10 at this point. So why not switch and either do 5-acre minimums or come up with an alternative game plan in keeping this green space? This affects a lot of different people on a lot of different levels. Waukesha County correctly points out that Lisbon's comprehensive plan clearly states that it deserves a continued future as a rural residential community. Lisbon residents do not appear interested in becoming urban. In plan surveys and public testimony, Lisbon residents have consistently indicated that they want to remain rural. It was proven again when the 28 people showed up at the last meeting. In short, my summary or takeaway is this. It's curious to me why this land has been zoned A10 for 10 plus years and why is it being rushed through so quickly. The land that was for parks, conservancy, currently zoned under A10 for agriculture, to maintain what the residents have wanted. It appears the Planning Commission seems to be a little biased on this for the betterment of the developer, or has interests that the community must not know about, because it's putting grant money in jeopardy if we are indeed getting this grant money. Why the rezoning? I just don't get it. I really don't. It's like you're rushing this through for the betterment of the developer. I understand people need to do what they need to for their land. I know they have that right, but this affects a much bigger scenario here. It is my understanding that the chairman of the board, planning commission, and the town board needs to be fiduciaries and conduct due diligence on behalf of our residents, and not on behalf of this developer. The developer could have made this R5 work. He chose not to. I'm sure there'll be somebody else. This appears to be a rush decision, and we need to look back and look at this a little differently. The traffic flow is horrendous. We've talked about the train issues. There was talk about us having a second subdivision added onto ours. I don't think that's realistically a good thing for us either. There was talk that the fire department had to have an in or an out, that it's worked for us for 35 years. We don't need an extra exit just because of that. I think if anything, it's going to become more of a headache. The traffic on Q is worse. There are many variables here. This is too fast to just rush this through. So I urge the board to take their time, do your due diligence, take the time to look at these areas, stick to the comp plan that you agreed was a great idea for the town originally. No knee-jerk decisions. You devoted 4 years of hard work to put this plan into place, and you decided that this was our future and it was for the betterment of the town. Stand firm on the foundations you all created. Show us why we voted you for these positions. Thank you, and we can keep this community that hidden gem in Waukesha County. Appreciate your time.
Who'd like to go next? Would anyone like to go next?
Thank you. Sue Miller, Mueller, N87 W24189 North Lisbon Road. I'm here to publicly state that we are opposed to the zoning changes that the Planning Commission passed in their last meeting. It didn't matter that the voices of multiple Lisbon residents who own more land than this other single parcel and actually live in the town voiced their concerns. Concerns about quality of life and safety. A week after that meeting, for the first time, I witnessed the drag racing that was just mentioned. By the time my son was able to get the license plate, we could call the sheriff to report it. We could not even see the car. The car was basically harassing, or as what my son called pit crewing, on Highway Q, 2 wheels going down North Lisbon Road. By the time we called before we got to the previous commenter's home, the house had already turned left onto North Lisbon Road. You can check public records. We reported it to the sheriff that day. Instead of caring about what us other citizens had to say, the Planning Commission chose to use a logic that I cannot begin to understand. First, they claimed ignorance as to why the land was zoned A10, as if that should be the predominant reason to approve a change. Second, they chose to engage in conversations with an ex-board member seated in the audience who was actually opposed to the change, trying to get an answer. Third, they refused to take time to review issues brought forth because it may delay the start of the building. Again, putting the developer's ask above the citizens' request for answers. There is no study required to make the change. That was clearly stated. There's no plan to review that Mr. Forrester brought forth, and there was simply an ask. Gentlemen just came up and asked. I hardly believe that this logic would be the correct way to handle a work task. To tell your boss, well, we used to do it that way years ago, so I chose to do it that way now. Or better yet, when I come here in a few weeks to pay my tax bill to the town, I'm going to pay what it used to be because I don't remember why it was raised or why it was changed. To me, that is pure absurdity in reasoning. Yet that is the logic the Planning Commission chose to take when they ruled to change the zoning. I'm not going to rehash the concerns related to traffic, nature, water, or loss of that rural feel. That's already been addressed. Since moving here 20 years ago, the town population has already doubled. We are changing, and growth is a sign of a healthy community. But sensible growth is one that requires planning. We had a plan. If the landowner that requested the change isn't willing to compromise and develop under the Conservancy zoning the way it was when he purchased it, why should everyone else compromise and allow the change in high-density building? Just because small lots worked in the adjacent area before does not mean it is the best option today. We weren't as big then as we are now. The Planning Commission chose to open Pandora's box, which means every parcel now zoned A10 is up for the, quote, zoning change ask. After all, once you say yes to one, it's hard to say no to another. Ask any parent who has more than one child. The Planning Commission took the position that we should say yes today so someone else can say no tomorrow, putting the responsibility back to the full board and very firmly plant much of it on the shoulders of the county. It's not as if there are no available lots for sale in Lisbon. There are plenty, approximately 55. When you have builders with open lots in subdivisions marketing to current buyers that they will be joining a small residential community and then find out that at any given moment the field next to them can suddenly be rezoned simply because someone asked, I call that a bait and switch. And that's exactly what the Planning Commission did instead of doing their job. They baited us with a zoning plan through 2035, and then they switched. Thank you.
Would like to go next?
My name's Brian Eyre, E-Y-R-E, W220 N9359 Town Line Road. I'd just like to register my opposition to this change of zoning as well, for all the reasons already stated. I won't go over them again, but I'd just like to say I've been to these meetings, every one I can attend, which is most of them, and it seems to me that you're not representing the will of the majority of the people in this town with the incorporation issue, with the rezoning, and I think I'd just like to remind the people at this meeting that these people should represent us, and if they don't, we should do something about it. So we're going to be watching what goes on with not this issue, but in the future. And if you're not representing our needs, then we're going to take action and change the board. Thank you.
Would like to go next?
Okay, Sarah Valoria, North 95, West 23853, County Line Road. I also oppose changing the comprehensive land use plan. I'm not going to repeat everything that everyone said, but basically I'm just wondering how changing it is going to actually benefit the town residents, and why is the town changing their vision to meet a developer's need and not looking at the residents' needs. In addition to all that, I moved here in 2011, believing the town would follow its comprehensive land use plan and not change it whenever asked. And I have concerns not only with preserving the Bark River area, but with also the potential major traffic increase on County Line Road. It's already dangerous to turn left out of my driveway, and when there's a train coming through, it's almost impossible. We also live 3 miles from the school my child attends, and he rides the bus for almost an hour each way. If the town's going to continue to increase the population the way it has been and allowing for rezoning to the extent that it has been, can the town prove to its current residents that it will be able to provide quality and safe means of travel to school and or work? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Would like to go next?
Scott Radke, North 95, West 23787, County Line Road. We're right next to the cornfield on County Line Road. So everything that was said earlier, I congratulate all the people that spoke so eloquently. It was great. We live right on County Line Road, so traffic is huge. It's a huge purpose that we're here. It should be taken into consideration. The last meeting on November 28th, it was said by Mark, who was on the board or whatever, that it was too expensive to do a water table test, too expensive to do a travel car survey, traffic control. That was brought up already. I just want to say that expense shouldn't be a concern here. And I don't know who it would be on. I believe it's a developer. He would want to know if it tests right. Wouldn't he want to know that by a neutral company who has no interest in it other than to do their job and do the test of the water, the test of the survey, the traffic survey? I think that should be considered also. But I applaud everybody that spoke very well, and I hope this hits home.
Thank you. Would like to go next?
Hi, good evening. I'm Cheryl Regals, Reagles. I live at West 236 North 9191 Mount Vernon. I've lived there for 35 years. I am opposed to the rezoning of the parcel we're discussing. Regardless of what the Plan Commission remembers about why it was changed many years ago, the fact is it is zoned the way it is and has been for years. I don't deny farmers who are unable to continue farming and sell their land. This is not the case for this parcel. I am new to these meetings, and probably a lot of us, and glad to be learning. And I would like to know: can anyone buy a parcel of land in the town and just assume the town will rezone it for whatever the buyer's plans? It seems that way to me. Why do we have why is it zoned the way it is? That it can be changed on a whim, or why do we have the 2035 plan if things are just going to be changed? Like many people have already said, there's two other dead ends in presidential estates. Can it be assumed that those will also be used for future subdivisions? I think that's a fair question. So this has been a learning and eye-opening experience for me, and I was very disappointed about the Plan Commission's lack of listening to the people who spoke, and what we value about this town, the preservation of its rural character. I think in the end you'll do what you need to do, but I hope that you do what the residents are asking, and that you consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Would like to go next? You go after. Ready? You can go right afterwards.
Eric
You go right
Schmidt,
after him.
N88 W24240 North Lisbon Road. Just want to make 2 quick points. We moved here 4 years ago from the city of Brookfield for this beautiful rural setting. I'm opposed to rezoning it from the A10 to the higher density residential neighborhood proposed. The other point I'd like to make is my biggest concern is increased traffic on our road and safety for my children. I have 6 and 8-year-old boys, and my concern is we're on a hill, and everybody knows is you can teach a boy never to run in the road after his ball, but 1 out of every 20 times you don't know why, but he chases that ball into the road. So with the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, even if you reduce it, the higher traffic, I'm just concerned for safety, and I oppose the change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening. Michael O'Brien, W24. Oh, that's the old one, sorry. W220 North 9009 Town Line Road. Just like everybody else here, it's rural. That's why we came here. We came here to get away from crap. We came here to get away from crime. We came here to get away from everybody else and have our space that was ours, that was home, that actually felt like home. When my mom brought me out here 20 years ago, I lived right on County Line Road, right at the top of the hill on the old Bussey stead. That now is gone. There is literally nothing there but a vacant lot with a pole barn on it. Because somebody came in, bought the land, and leveled part of the history for this town. They were one of the original families that was here. And now, you want to take more land, screw up more water tables, and take more rural land away from the people that came here to get it? Seriously, priorities. I'm not trying to be a dick, and I'm not trying to be loud and abrasive. But when my mom brought me out here, I saw things that I never thought I'd be able to see. Deer in my backyard, turkeys, pheasants, raccoons that came up right in our yard and just stood there and went, whoa, people. When you see things like that as a child, it changes your entire outlook about how you're brought up. Sitting on the bus for an hour? Yeah, I did it too back then. I graduated 2001 from Hamilton, Sussex. I was still on that bus for an hour. And again, now you want to pack more people onto more buses? Back then we were sitting 3 deep on the buses, and we had to try to squeeze ourselves in. How safe is that for our children? There's no safety belts on those buses, and you're 3 deep in the seats. How is that responsible? We're supposed to entrust our kids to these bus drivers that are supposed to pick our kids up and take them to school and then bring them back home safely. Where is the safety when they're 3 deep on a bus and sitting on a bus uncomfortable for an hour? How is that fair to our children? How is it fair at all to take land away from the future generations that are supposed to enjoy that? Pretty soon there's literally going to be no green places left. Look at New York City, it's a prime example. All you have to do is build up. You can't go anywhere else. Is that really what we want for our future generations? Or do I have to constantly see more dead wildlife on the side of the road that nobody, by the way, is picking up? Do I have to see, again, more traffic issues? I got a kid. You think I want her getting hit by a car, much less a dump truck, on County Line Road or on Town Line Road when they come clipping through there because they're not paying attention to anything? You think I want some asshole kids that are drag racing?
We are on TV tonight.
That's okay, and I'm
gonna
sorry.
need
That's
you to
why I was
refrain
quiet. I'm
from
sorry.
swearing.
But you have to understand the safety of our kids, of our parentage, and of what we're doing with our future generations is what's important to us. And if you as a council cannot understand that, whether you're parents, grandparents, or not, look at it from their standpoint. Because pretty soon, there's not going to be anything left for anybody else.
Would you like to go next?
Thank you.
My name is AJ. I spoke at the last meeting. Touched a little bit of base.
State your address too, please.
Oh, it's N90W24279 Crooked Bridge Drive.
Thank you.
I touched base a little bit, probably a couple seconds at the last meeting about the well water and the levels dropping. I did about 10 to 12 wells over the winter because of that quarry moving on Hillside, moving south and east. There's still some people waiting for their reimbursement on that. When the new subdivision goes in, or new neighborhood goes in, how many more people are going to have to get their wells dropped, and how many more people are going to be waiting for that? So where I worked at the time, that was $3,000 if you didn't have a pump. You know, if you had to get a new pump, if you had to get it brought up to code, you're looking at a minimum of $3,000. Just the pump drop was almost $1,000. The other thing I wanted to speak about was traffic. I'm sure a lot of you recall the other night up on Holy Hill Road and 41, that head-on collision. I saw that happen. I was actually driving up to Kewaskum when that happened. And actually today on my way to work, I was at the stop sign on Hillside and Plainview, and as she brought up about the dump trucks, one of them blew the stop sign and almost T-boned. And it wasn't an issue of wet weather, wet roads, or anything, because the car behind him was clearly able to stop. How much more traffic are we gonna put through there? I've been seeing more and more lowboys with excavators coming through on North Lisbon Road and North Road in the middle of the night. You got animals running out there, and they're doing well over 45 miles an hour. You know, we got, somebody told me that they counted the traffic on Q, and in about 20 minutes to an hour, they had over 600 cars. You know, we're pushing that. We're pushing probably 100 cars a day on North Lisbon and North Road easily. With people doing over the speed limit. I was coming home about a week ago. I made a right turn from Q on the North Road, and a van was making a turn from Q on the North Road going the other way. He was making a left turn, I was making a right turn. By the time I got to Crooked Bridge Drive, that van was so close to me, if I would have had to stop emergency-wise, I'd have been rear-ended. By the time I went to make that turn, I didn't even get to make that turn, and that van was next to me in the other lane. What if somebody was flying over the other way? Flying over the hill, going the other way? They would have hit that van head on. I had one even on the way here that blew the stop sign on North Road and North Lisbon Road. When I was going to make a left turn on the North Lisbon Road, they made a left turn to go the other way, right in front of me. Luckily the roads weren't wet, otherwise I probably would have slid into that person. The traffic is getting worse, especially after they closed down, what is that, Colgate Road, right over here? The traffic's been getting a lot worse since, and with the increase of population, it's just getting crazy. Can't even drive anywhere anymore without almost getting into a car accident. So, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melissa Fenninger. I live at N91W24201 Crooked Bridge Court. I was also here last time. I oppose the rezoning, and I wanted to say it again here tonight. I think we lost a lot of people who felt like, based on the decision from the planning committee, it wasn't worth coming back and that it wasn't worth speaking. But I'm happy that so many people did. I agree with what everybody has said here tonight. I moved out here 17 years ago because I wanted to get my daughter out of the city. I like the aesthetics of our rural community. I don't want to see that change. Also, there is already an incredible traffic issue on North Road. It's impossible to turn off of North Road onto Q, turning left. It's also impossible to turn onto North Road from Q, turning left again. With the Bark River there, if you guys do move forward with this, can you put a roundabout there, or is it too close to the Bark River? I just have a lot of concerns about this. I don't agree with this. I don't want to continue to rehash everything that everybody said. One of the points too was that the new subdivision will look harmonious with the existing subdivision it attaches to. It will not make all of our lives in that area harmonious, trying to deal with the traffic that this will create. Adding another minimum of 60 plus cars to that area on that road is not going to be harmonious for any of us. It might have been good to put that many houses in that area back in the day, but now with the traffic out on Q, with everything, this just is not a good idea, and a lot of us are trying to tell you that. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next?
Hello, name is James Liebiger, N88W23693 North Lisbon Road. Speaking to all of you sitting here in front of us today, you were put here in these positions to uphold what the people of this town would like to have done, not turn your hand to a developer that comes in and wants to change. I do oppose the rezoning. I agree with everything that's been said here tonight, and hopefully you people sitting at this table are hearing what is being said to you, that enough is enough. You know, how many parcels in the town through the year that has just gone by has been changed? That you're adding so many houses. Have you gone beyond the growth for 2019? Are you projected to surpass the growth for 2020? There's a lot of issues that, I mean, some of these people in this room are amazing with what they know with what's going on. I see the growth. I've been in the town of Lisbon for 30 years. And yeah, it's absolutely horrendous, the traffic up and down North Lisbon Road. Terrible. Just because a builder comes in and wants to change something, he didn't vote you people sitting in front of me. He didn't vote you in to do what the people of this town wants. He's coming here for profit for himself. The people that are here in front of you live here, and they're speaking their minds to tell you what they want done. I haven't come to these meetings for many years because I've stood at this podium and expressed my feelings. I've had 2 pages of notes. And you hardly ever listen to what the people of the town want. You just go off and do willy-nilly and accept change, and you allow people to do what they want to do in the town. You have to stick up for the people who live in this town. That's why we're here tonight, expressing again, we don't want the rezoning done. And then when this one happens, there's going to be another one, and it's, you know, we're all going to come back and discuss this again. You have to make a stand, and you have to stop. You know, things are put in place for a reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next?
My name is Joe Minty, N88, W24228, North Lisbon Road. I want to voice my opinion against this change in zoning. We have some serious studies to get taken care of by the person called the developer, not the town. We need to check the watershed on the Bark River. We need to check the well depths. We need an impact study on the traffic. That's not the town's responsibility. Everything is fine right now. Somebody comes in, buys a chunk of land, wants to flip it for profit, hires someone to come in and say, hey, Town of Lisbon, it's the Town of Lisbon. Those guys don't know what they're doing. We'll just go in and have it rezoned, and then we'll put in a bunch of houses, and existing citizens around that area, they could lose their wells. They could have salt and this waste stuff we're putting on the roads now run off into the Bark River. I've looked at the maps. I don't see how it's going to isolate the Bark River from any of this, or the houses around it from losing their wells. So we have some serious business that needs to be taken care of before we rezone. And that's the job of the developer, not the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next?
My name is Fred Sanfilippo, live at N95 West 24900 Norwalk Road. I came here from Milwaukee 43 years ago when we built, and there was nothing around there. And to see what it's turned into, and the amount of accidents that have been at the corner of Hillside and Q, and nobody's done nothing about it. You're still dragging your feet on it. Now you want to put another 30 houses right.
Just to stop you right there, there's a roundabout that is going to be going in on Hillside and Q, just so you're aware.
Has that been decided for sure?
It hasn't been announced yet, but it has been. Yeah. That's not us, though. Just so you know, that's a county road. That's not the town.
Okay.
Just before we get accused of something else here tonight, I'm just going to lay that out here.
Okay, but
we're going to kill that one right away.
But still, there's been deaths there.
I agree.
And
It's
for
horrible.
years, nothing was done. But now you have so many people, whereas the society is where they wanted it done yesterday. Everyone drives 65, 70 on Highway Q. Now you want to put another 30 homes in there, probably another 80 drivers. Think of your kids and your grandkids. I'm sure we all drive Highway Q constantly every day. You see what it's like, you know what it's like, and how many accidents there is. Now you want to do it from this aspect? I think it's totally ridiculous. Like the other people have said, I moved out here from Milwaukee to have a rural area. I expected growth, but not to the point of just satisfying more developers. Think of your kids and your grandkids and vote that way. Don't be like Washington. Do your job, listen to the people that voted you in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who'd like to go next? Would anyone like to go next?
Name's Phil Jarman, W236N9252 Monticello. Been out here for 42 years as well. Enjoy the rural atmosphere as well. Everything everybody said tonight is correct. Just want to say I'm opposed to this as well. I'm glad that someday, back 42 years ago, they allowed some subdivision to be built. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. But there should be some limits. We have failing septics in our subdivision. A few wells have failed. So I'm unfortunately not involved in that yet, but someday probably. So again, I'm just voicing my opposition to this this proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would like to go next?
Kurt Hockerman, North 95, West 23719 Hermitage Drive. I would like to express on the people's behalf here that have husbands and wives that say, well, I really don't need to get to stand up because my husband's talking or my wife's talking. I would like to show a vote of hands in here to actually go on a record as to the people who are opposed, as I am, to the change.
What?
Could we have a raise of hands and let's go on the record, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
Do we need to record something so it's on the
Pretty clear that everybody there.
majority?
Yeah. I've got enough. I mean, we're taking notes on this, so thank you. Who'd like to go next? So this will be your time to speak tonight. I didn't make those rules, but we will follow them. Citizens' comments. After this, it comes up to the board, and the discussion stays up here. So if you want to make comments, this is the time. Can you, do you mind stepping up?
N88W23767, North Lisbon Road. I think everybody's ideas here are pretty clear. I just have one question. What are we really gonna do about it? We have to let our feelings be known to management with a little bit of emphasis. If anybody has an idea on how we can go about putting this across, it'll probably help all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else would like to go?
Can I ask a question? What does pit crewing mean? I'm going to email the sheriff's department to get some patrols out there, but what does pit crewing mean?
Pit passing, what they were doing on Highway Q, the car was coming up and then going like this, so that they're kind of like looking like they were going to try to pass the car. And then when cars would come head on, they'd slide behind. The car slid over to the right side twice. Finally turned into a driveway that they didn't live in, just to have that car go away. My son was driving, he was 16. I said, you need to be really far behind that car and stay back. He pulled back, I called the sheriff, he told me the license plate while I was on the phone. And by the time we were to the first residence, that car was so far we couldn't see it.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't know what it was.
Nope.
Thanks.
I didn't either.
I'm not sure. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? This will be the final call for the citizens' comments here tonight.
One more. Can I just make one more statement, please?
Sure.
I wanted to say just, we appreciate your time and effort into this. You know, this is just one subdivision and one parcel of land, but we're looking at a bigger picture as a group. Our town of Lisbon really is a great community to live in. And yes, the traffic has been horrendous and Kew is a busy place, but overall, we're looking to remain that rural community for which all of us love to live in. I know some of the board members have land and they're going to want to rezone their land at some point. We get that. But we have to look at where this population is consolidated, and this subdivision going in, or this proposed subdivision, is too close to an already populated area for traffic. We really do appreciate your time in making a decision and not rushing this one through, because there really are a lot of variables. So I know this probably took a lot longer than you guys wanted, and you stayed late last time, so thank you for that. And we do realize, you know, this is a little bigger picture than just making a quick decision and trying to rush it through and get a decision before a January deadline in order to hit a developer's request. So really give it some thought. Thanks again.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to close the citizens' comments portion then and head into number 4, which is the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are considered in one motion unless a town board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda. We've got the November 28th, 2019 town board meeting minutes, the 2020 Waukesha County Community Assistance Planner contract, and the appointment of election inspectors for the 2020 and 2021 term. We have the consent agenda in front of us. Is there any questions, or is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I make a motion we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Moved by Linda to accept. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Becky. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 5 is approval of bills.
All right, tonight's accounts payable, we have a total expenditures of $128,633,051. Top 5 expenditures are $44,266,000 for rural mutual insurance for the 2020 town vehicle property liability and workers' comp insurance, $27,100 to Kunkel Engineering for the TID number 1 reviews and subdivision reviews that are reimbursable, $15,340.49 to Premier Building Inspections for November contract services, $8,089.18 to Compass Minerals for salt, for road salt, and $7,200 to Kramer Maltoff and Hammes for regular town legal, TIF district, and other subdivision reviews that are reimbursable to the town.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the check register?
Do you have any idea how much was reimbursable from this?
Yes. Give me 1 second. Let's see here. From Kunkel, 22, 27, about 3,000. The majority of it was from the TIP district, which will be reimbursed by the TID revenues once those start coming in. And then the attorney one. About 1,000 for the attorney, and again, the majority of those were the TIF district. There you go. You're welcome.
Any other questions on the check register? Is there a motion on it?
I'll make a motion to approve the report dated 11/26/2019 to 12/5/2019, the grand total amount of $128,633.51.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Tidia. Any final discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is the meeting list. Check that out here. All right, Thursday, December 12th will be a Plan Commission meeting here at the Town Hall at 6:30 p.m. December 16th will be a Park Committee meeting at 6:30 at the Richard Young Memorial Fire Station. On the 17th of December, there'll be a Lisbon-Sussex Joint Plan Committee meeting at 6:15 at the Village Hall in Sussex. On the 18th, there'll be Department of Administration public hearing for the Land and Lisbon Border Agreement at 4 p.m. at the Richard Young Memorial Fire Station. 7:30 that night should be the Sanitary District Committee meeting here at the Town Hall. The offices will be closed on December 24th, 25th, 31st, and January 1st. And then Thursday, January 9th will be the next Planning Commission meeting at 6:30, and then the next board meeting will be January 13th here at the Town Hall. Does anyone else have any announcements or correspondence to note? All right, item 7 is department reports. We have the administrator report.
All right, a couple things for you. The monthly ACH auto report is included in the packets for your review. The 2019 wrap-up and looking forward to 2020 projects. We've gotten quite a lot of it done in 2019. We made it through the software conversion last year. We started the incorporation progress. We've had some staff turnover in a few departments, yet we continue to improve our processes while still giving great customer service to the residents. Staff continues to do great work no matter what comes up. 2020 is going to be especially busy with 4 elections, especially being presidential election year. 2 other things that changed after the town board packet went out. Tax collection, as of last week, we were told by the county that the taxes were going to go out in the mail on Thursday and get online on Thursday. That did not happen. They had a glitch. Something happened with uploading the printer. We do know that the tax bills went up online on Saturday. We haven't heard if they went out in the mail yet. They do have to be out by the 3rd Tuesday in December. So if you did not get it by the end of this week that we're in, give us a call. We can look it up online. We have PDF bills. We can email you a copy of yours, or you can just come to the town hall and we'll print it out for you. This other thing, we do have some staffing change at town hall going on. This is Clerk Dan Green's last town board meeting with us with Lisbon. And we have another Dan that's leaving us, and I'll let Planner Dan come on up and talk to the board quick. Sure. Either one.
I just wanted to say thanks to the town board. I am officially leaving Beer Becker. I've accepted a position with Shawano County Economic Progress Incorporated to become their executive director. And so over the next 2 months, I will be working with my staff who have been working on behalf of the town to kind of transition 2 new individuals to help support both the Planning Commission, Joint Planning Committee, and the town board as well. So, so over the next, as I mentioned, over the next few months, my official full-time last day with Beer Becker will be at the end of the month, but I have told them I'm staying on for another month part-time specifically to transition you guys. And so pretty much be my only client at that point to move forward. So, but over the next few weeks, you'll start to see 2 new individuals who will kind of be interfacing with you on a more regular basis. And so I plan to bring them out at the next few meetings, so you'll start to see those faces. So I want to say thank you for the opportunity to work with you over the past 2 years. It's been fun. You guys have been a great organization to work for. I've enjoyed working for your staff, and it's been fun. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Gonna miss both Dans. All right, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Gina. We have the Parks Department report.
It's up to you.
Under park, what are you doing? We've been pretty busy in the parks, getting ready for winter stuff. We're flooding the ice rink with the help of the fire department. Hopefully it gets cold the next couple days and we'll have an ice skating rink up ready before the kids go on winter break. We've been removing ash trees as they die from emerald ash borer. We have about 35 marked this winter to take down. Fixed the leakage in the ice rink on the manhole cover, so now it's holding water, which is nice. We had a lot of snow so far this year, actually, for a record. But we've been plowing as needed and helping keep the town hall, fire departments, and parks and stuff open, and Joe's done a great job on the roads. Still with our weekly garbage cleanup, restroom facility cleaning, fleet maintenance, converting a lot of the stuff over to winter use from summer use. We attended the Wisconsin State Rec Conference. We also attended a couple safety meetings and seminars, town board meetings, levy meeting, and planner meeting if necessary. We worked with Tammy from Conkle. We did get that grant in for the Lake 5 paving. We should hear about that in probably by March, she told me. Hopefully it can be anywhere from a 90 to 70% payback. So the money we had allotted for us to do it, even though we sub it out, we should save a lot more money on what we put aside. If it's a 90%, that'd be great.
even if it's a 70%, we'll still save more money than what we had for that project. And that will complete that project, which connects about 6 subdivisions and 2 communities, right to the bug line and Merton, and you can actually get all the way over to Mountain Shadows now and go through subdivisions and stay off of VV, ND, Lake 5, kids and families to get over to the bug line, which of course will connect all the way from Menominee Falls to North Lake. So yeah, we're busy. We got the leaves all mulched up as much as we could before the snow flew. The rest will biodegrade. All the shelters are shut down and everything's looking good to go from the parks. Any questions?
Questions for John?
You do a great job.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, Public Works Department.
Joe. Since Johnny said it, I'm Joe. I'm your highway guy, so if you ever need anything, give me a holler. But I usually don't have a nice live audience like this, so it's a little different.
We're live.
Well, you guys are, but a little smaller. So first off, this is a November report. So the town or the highway department mows roadsides 3 times a year, and we finished our final round in the month of November, and then obviously started switching in the snow. We went out 5 times in the month of November for winter weather events. We received road salt for both Lisbon, and we also plowed the village of Merton. So we received road salt for that and had to push it up into our shed. We got our snow fence posts all pounded and the fence put up last week, but we got the fence post in, started with that. Potholes as needed, we did. Obviously this time of year they do kind of creep up here and there, so we try to hit them as often as possible, but can't get on them right away necessarily. We did have a lot of rain throughout November in between the snow, so we were taking care of sewer grates, culverts, etc. We did trim branches that were hanging down from, the plow trucks. We don't obviously always drive the big trucks around, so when we do that, you start noticing where other branches are hanging down a little lower, where cars generally are only running in pickup trucks. So took care of that. As you all know, the compost site is closed, obviously, but we finished it up in November, and also I just figured I'd talk a little bit for a second about moving it. The plan is still to move it to the west, obviously. I feel like there might be a little delay in that coming out. I mean, we'll still have a compost site opened in April for everyone, weather permitting. But it might just not be at the new site yet, because there's a lot of work that needs to get done, and now we're in winter, and it's just hard saying right now. I mean, it could work out great. It all depends on what winter wants to do here. So we'll have a compost site open. We just don't exactly know where it'll be, and we'll keep everybody posted on that. So we did that. We always, prior to snow plowing season, we wax all the trucks. We go through and we paint the underbodies with underbody coating. We fluid film them, so that's a big undertaking, but that's what we have a very large investment in trucks, so we want to take care of it and keep them looking good and going as long as possible. So that's kind of what we do in the month of November, and creeped up on us a little early this year, so we were juggling back and forth, but we got her done. I personally attended the November 11th board meeting. We had the budget meeting here on November 13th. I attended a funding meeting for roads, for county roads. We do it's LRIP, it's local roads, so it's for townships that can get grant money. I attended a meeting for that. I also attended another trial for Lake Country Municipal Court where I had to testify on behalf of the town for a weight limit ticket that an outfit was fighting for seasonal weight limit. So I was there again for that. It's been busy this year with that. I prepared and hosted my annual plowers meeting, and I met with Linda from Rural to go over our DPW schedule for this insurance, so that's all squared away. And as usual, this time of year I get, juggle both hats with plowing, because I do have my own route and I plow as well. So it gets a little busier for me throughout the winter months. But then on a quick side note, we had a crawler that was out at the parks by Johnny that we used for pushing off, and in the budget workshop, we talked about a skid steer to replace that, which we all approved. Well, we went to sell that piece of equipment thinking we'd maybe get a couple $1,000s for it, and lo and behold, we sold it for $14,000. So that's pretty sweet, and it was quite shocking. But somebody's going to take advantage of using it for a driveway up in Richfield, I guess. So awesome for them and awesome for us. So that was pretty cool. That helped a lot. So figured you guys would like to hear that. So
Perfect, thank you.
any questions from me?
You also do a great job.
We try. Thank you very much.
I have one. What was the outcome of that court trial?
Good for the town. So basically what happens is these are trucking companies or private guys that go overweight in the seasonal weight limits and they fight it. You know, there's no exceptions during those 2 to 4 weeks in April, March area where we put a 6-ton limit on unless your septic's backing up and you need a big truck. School buses, obviously, garbage trucks get to be exempt. But if you're just a trucking outfit hauling stone, whatever, you get ticketed. And he tried to turn around. I mean, he tried to do the right thing, and you feel bad for these guys, but at the end of the day, the rules are rules. And I used to drive truck, and I know to look for this stuff, so I don't have a whole lot of mercy for these guys. I mean, I feel bad for them, but hey, and the judge stuck it to him. I mean, we're talking like $8,000, so it's tough for a one-man band. So it's sad, but it's life in the big city. So yeah, but that was that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to say as the DPW liaison, you guys do a great job. I noticed when I drive around that there's some lag in other municipalities and how they plow the roads, but you guys, starting out the season, have done a great job, and I'd like that message passed down to the staff.
All right, I will do that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Yep.
Thank you, Joe. All right. Move on to item 8, supervisor reports. Does anyone have anything to report?
We don't have our meeting until the 18th. So
Sanitary district.
Yeah, the sewer, sanitary sewer.
Okay. Anything from anyone else? All right, we have no unfinished business. We'll head to item 10. A, discussion and necessary action on the agreement between the town of Lisbon. Oh, I'm sorry, we nailed that one already. B, discussion and necessary action on the recommendations from the Plan Commission for the following requests. Number 1, ordinance 22-19, an ordinance amending the 2035 Comprehensive Development Plan for the town of Lisbon for the request of Jim Forrester for the property owned by Right Way Bus LLC for the property located at North 95 West 23759 County Line Road, text key LSBT 0150.997, and recommendation to Waukesha County of the same. All right. We have Sandy Shear here tonight, and our planner Dan is here also. This was something that was passed 6-1 by the Plan Commission. I think it was 6. Yeah. It was 6. 5-1. We're missing one person. 5-1. So there was one dissenting vote. It was passed and recommended to the town board but it was done with the contingency that we have Sandy Shear here tonight to discuss why things were done the way they were. So we've got a lot of comments here tonight. We try to get through all these comments. Some of these comments that we have here tonight, as far as like the stormwater and such, and the wells, and some of the stuff that would happen when a subdivision was brought in, and somebody referenced Mark Meyer's comments about the cost. Those things come later, is what Mark was stating. It wasn't that he doesn't want to place the cost on the developer. It's just at this point, if the developer doesn't even know whether or not he has a chance to do this, nobody's going to pay for that. So that's just the context in which that was. I just felt I needed to defend him a little bit there. One of the comments about the population in the community doubling in the last 20 years. In the 2000 census, the population of the town of Lisbon was 9,359. And right now we're between 10,500 and 10,800. So that's the increase in population over those years. Now we have seen a huge increase in population in the area. I would say most of the traffic everyone's seeing in County Q is not attributed to us. It's attributed to the growth that's happening in other places. We can't stop that. There is obviously this development here, which we're going to talk about. One of the things that was addressed by the Plan Commission, I do respectfully do not disagree that this was passed half-heartedly and that it was done very quickly. There is a process. The process is followed. The process is always followed. There's a number of steps that things have to go through. We do those steps. So there was nothing pushed through. As far as the developer goes and the board trying to do things for the developer, that's just not the truth. Number one, this is the first time this board is getting a crack at this. Becky and I sit on the Plan Commission, so it's the second time for us, but the other 3 members of this board, this is literally the first time they have any say in what's going to happen here on this. The only person that was here during the 2009 comp plan review is me. I was on the Plan Commission when it started. I was not on the Plan Commission when it ended. I did vote on it, though. I do not remember everything and every reason of what happened and why it happened. So that's why we're going to discuss that here tonight. Just trying to go through things here as they come up. I did state at the Plan Commission level, I do believe there is a legitimate complaint here because we did in 2009, no matter what the reason was, because we're going to talk about that here tonight, but no matter what the reason was, that area was zoned A10. There's a lot of areas in the north side of the town that were zoned A10. They were in the plan before that, which I've had the map. At one time, they were zone A2 on the future land use plan, which is this old map that's just about to fall apart.
On the zoning map.
The zoning map, right. So, and Sandy's going to speak a little bit to this here tonight because she was here for that and answer any questions you might have. So, try at least. Honestly, to remember back 9-10 years on every single parcel in the community, I'm sorry, you don't. Jane Stadler was here. Somebody referenced the individual that was here in the audience. That was Dan Fisher. Yes, we were trying to find out why, because we don't remember. And that's why we're here tonight. That's why this was given to the board tonight to discuss. As far as the reason why it was, as far as passed on the Plan Commission, had this been in April or May, I believe this would have been just held over to the next Plan Commission meeting to bring Sandy in. The reason why this was done was the county does rezoning one time a year, which has to be in by
The comp plan process
Comp plan.
happens one time a year. That's one thing I want to clarify.
Do you mind coming on up, Sandy?
There's a comprehensive plan process and there's a rezone process. The process that you're going through right now is the comprehensive development plan process.
Can you hit that top button on your mic real quick? Sorry, it shuts off automatically.
So the process you're going through right now, as the agenda states, is the comprehensive development plan process. And then there's a rezone process that will follow. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that although they're similar, they're different processes. So you're going through the comprehensive development plan process.
Is that thing
Yeah, the
working?
mic is not working.
Yeah, no.
Just hold it.
Gonna hold it for a couple seconds.
Won't go that far? I sit in these chairs. So again, the process you're going through tonight is the comprehensive development plan process.
A little closer. There you go. Okay, that's better.
Okay, everybody understand? Two
So
different processes.
from the board, we have the zoning and the comprehensive plan. You know, the board doesn't deal with this as much, obviously, as the Plan Commission. They are sent here, but I mean, the long-term plan, what we envision things to be, and that's what people have been speaking here tonight.
Correct.
And we did that comprehensive development plan back in 2000, passed in, I think, 09.
Well, there was an original one that was done in the early 2000s, I believe. That was the first one that was done for the town. And then because of the smart growth law, you followed up and did, as someone mentioned, the cooperative effort with other communities in the county. In 2009, it was adopted, and that was called the smart growth law. And that's when you did your comprehensive development plan. And nothing changed on this particular parcel. The property was still 5-acre density between the two plans. And then as far as the zoning goes, what you were just mentioning, the history on that is for as long as I have been associated with the town, and prior to that, the zoning was A2, as it was through
Pretty much
a
the
lot
whole
of the town, which is why once we got the comprehensive development plan adopted in 2009, we did a comprehensive zoning ordinance revision and map revision to basically zone properties as used. And that's when the zoning on this property changed from A2 to A10, so that it was zoned as used. And then when a development comes in, that's when you have the opportunity to take a look at something and determine whether or not it should be changed based on the proposal at the time.
Is that because of the 5 acres you need? It went to 810?
No, it's because it was zoned as used. That was the category that was
Used?
as used. So that was the category at the time that best fit that property based on its use. So a 10-acre zoning category.
10 acres.
So can I ask, when it was A2, what did that mean?
I believe your zoning districts at the time, A2 was a 3-acre category.
And the only way for these smaller lots then that is like a PUD, correct?
Well, unless you have a zoning change and a comprehensive development plan change, correct?
So the minimum area was 30,000 square feet lot sizes back in the A2.
Was it?
Yeah, so this is the subdivision that's directly to the east,
Okay.
fit this category back then, and then those lots are all of 30,000 square feet or larger. And obviously all the different requirements after that, but it was a pretty, the A2 district description was this big back then, considering what it is now, quite a bit larger.
Can I read that, John?
Yes, it's vintage, be careful.
Sandy, do you remember if all the A2s were made A10s?
No. Again, the town was rezoned based on use, so it depended upon what the individual properties were used as at the time.
So most of them were being farmed. Is that? I mean, because the parcel next to us, which is 15 acres, was A2 and it was changed to A10.
Yeah, so that makes sense, because it was 15 acres in size. If its use was farming.
Farming, yeah.
It would make sense for that one to change to A10, but that wouldn't have necessarily been the case. for
Oh, okay.
All A2 zone parcels, because most of the town was zoned A2.
Oh,
So-
okay.
Right, and it's quite, I mean, it was a lot.
Yeah.
A lot on that map at the time was zoned A2. It's like it was just kind of a blanket.
Zoning.
There wasn't a lot of future planning going on in the town of Lisbon at that time.
Right.
There just wasn't.
Right.
I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat that in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
I mean, that 2009 revamp was the biggest thing we had done in a long time.
Well, and again, there was a prior plan done in the early 2000s with the county, and then because of smart growth law,
Right.
you had to update it. So that's what happened in 2009.
So where is the Bark River? I know it goes in there, but I thought it was way more east on this
So-
map.
so
I'm just trying to figure, this whole thing is the Bark, that's the environmental corridor?
primary environmental corridor.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Correct.
I mean, are there any concerns as far as I understand and I appreciate the questions regarding wells, that this would affect wells and so forth? So they don't do a study until after this has been changed?
You don't require a study until, so let's say that this parcel was already zoned, let's say A2 or whatever, R1.
Yeah.
You know, and they were putting a subdivision in at that point, you go through each criteria and then you know, traffic study. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that there'd be a traffic study done here, you know. The wells, I mean, a lot of this we don't handle on our end. That goes to the county, like the stormwater, county has to approve the, which I must say, stormwater has gotten a lot better. I said this at the last meeting too. The town has gotten ridiculously better at stormwater than it did in 2000. I mean, I would not have bragged up the stormwater in 2000 in the town of Lisbon in any way, shape, or form, but in the last 5 years for sure, I mean, stormwater has gotten drastically better.
Okay.
If you look at some of the developments that have happened with the stormwater, I mean, it really improves it. It's a, you know, people are concerned about it. They don't want their basements flooded. It's obvious concern, but it has gotten, you know, science and technology has gotten a lot better on that end of it. So they're able to figure out the topography of the land and how it drains much better.
Is there going to be an environmental, is a pond in this?
This, I gotta say, I mean, there's the plan is in here, but I mean, a lot of that stuff, they haven't done that stuff, because if there's no willingness to do this, it dies right here. And I made it very clear at that plan commission meeting too. If this were, you know, if the comp plan was amended, it does set things in motion. So I mean, I don't want anybody to think that you change the comp plan and it doesn't mean that the next and the next and the next step aren't gonna happen, because you change the comp plan, then they have a right to ask for a rezone. Well, if they ask for the rezone and it's to what's contingent with what we have, or, you know, at that point, you can't just deny it. You can't just say, no, I don't want it anymore. So this is a big step. I mean, nobody needs to sit here and think this isn't a big step in any way, shape, or form. You do this, it sets something in motion.
But we have to agree to everything with the planning commission and the board.
No.
No.
No. See, that's, when you're a PUD, and that's the nice thing about PUDs, you have a lot more control.
That's a plan unit development.
Yep, the PUD.
You don't know.
So when you have the PUDs, that's where you have a lot more control. This is a conventional subdivision. If it meets the code, you have to have a reason to deny it. Now, it could be traffic, it could be some other things, but those things aren't as easy as they sound to just go and deny.
Okay.
I mean, I can tell you what they're going to come in for with traffic. Is they're going to say it's 70 cars. Take 70 cars divided on how much time in a day. How many, is they're going to say it's 2 cars per minute more compared to 800. So, I mean, it isn't like you're just going to take that and go, oh, yeah, traffic and use that. I mean, there's a lot more to this on that end, and it's a lot harder to deny something. And I'm not trying to, there's pros and there's cons here. You look at this subdivision, you look at the adjoining subdivision. I know people say they like their dead ends. Those dead ends, if you've gone by there and seen them, there's only one driveway, I think, on one of those dead ends. Actually, it was a garage that was added on. The roads were put in. There's no hookups. There's no houses on some of those roads. So that's why I want to state to everyone, there was a vision back when that subdivision was put in, whether you agree it should change or not change. There was a vision at one time that this would extend, because we don't just dead-end subdivision roads. We cul-de-sac them if they're not going to go any further. It was a long time ago. Things can change. It's agreed upon on that. But it was at one time envisioned that this was going to continue. So I'm just trying to get pros and cons and all the points out here.
So this is roughly 45 acres, 45 acres with 28 homes.
43.7, yeah.
43.7 with 28 homes?
Yes.
Yep, as this plan.
This plan.
This isn't necessarily, again,
What would be?
this is the plan that's in front of you.
I know.
It doesn't necessarily mean that's what would come forward. Now, I will say, nobody's putting a 20,000 square foot lot on here. I know that's been thrown around a lot. I've heard that people are going to go 20,000 square foot. No, that's not going to happen. We have had subdivisions in the town that have been down to what this current subdivision is next to it, but it's been through the PUD process, and it has been 1 acre. It's been 1 acre per dwelling density, which we have not usually had a lot of opposition to. And I think this one's 1.4, if I'm correct. Is that correct, Dan?
If you take the overall density of the full development, and you have the overall density, now it's looking at the right of ways and everything else in there, trying to take some of those out, but you're about 1.3, 1.4.
Right.
It includes the roads, though, when you get that density, the 1.4, correct?
Less any dedications, but yes.
You minus a dedication. So these are what's proposed here is 1 acre lots, and then overall 1.4, which to defend the Plan Commission, I will say I bet you 7 out of 7 of them would say they were not expecting opposition, being it was 1 acre lots, because that seemed to be the big kickback was we don't want less than 1 acre per dwelling. Some people say 1 acre lot, some people say 1 acre per dwelling. It's a little different, but it's close. This is 1 acre per home. So it was a surprise, I'll say, to the Plan Commission to have opposition on this. It is not a surprise to have someone opposing a subdivision in general, because they moved next to a farm field, they want it to be a farm field forever. I understand Right Way Bus did purchase this. It doesn't matter if the farmer owned it or Right Way Bus owned it. A landowner with land property rights has a right to come to the town to request a land use change. That is their right to do that. They are property owners in the town of Elizabeth. They may not be voting member or have a vote as far as our election go, but they are property owners, so they do have rights. The town of Lisbon does not solicit subdivisions in any way, shape, or form. The only time this town has ever solicited, since I have been here, any kind of development in the town is the lead site, because we own it. That is literally the only time that, since I have been here, that anything has been solicited. We are completely reactive. Whether you like that or don't like that, it is 100% the truth. When people bring things forward, we have to review them. So thus we are where we are.
And a lot of people here from North Lisbon Road. How far off of North Lisbon Road?
It's right there. It's real close.
I know, but it's way over here.
Yeah, it's down here.
Okay.
There's some people from Town Line, North Lisbon. There's people from all over that are here, but
Correct.
they're concerned.
Yeah, I understand.
Sandy, one question I have is, can you speak to the historical perspective of developing the land use plan in 2000 and then 2009, I think I quoted you at? What, did anything change as far as the historical, view on that property? And how would it have maybe got to stay if it's not directly zoned the same as the subdivision next to it?
Well, again, the land use did not change between the two plans, the land use plan and the comprehensive development plan that came later. The land use stayed at 5 acres. The zoning changed simply because when you do a comprehensive development plan, you want to follow that up with some implementation tools. one of the tools is your zoning ordinance. And as we've mentioned, the town zoning ordinance was in need of some updating, and including the map. When you have a map that has almost all one zoning category, that's probably not necessarily a good thing. So one of the tools that we do is update the zoning ordinance and the accompanying map. And one of the processes that we do that is by zoning as used again. And so that was the tool that we used in updating the town's zoning map, was to zone as the properties as used. And so that's why the zoning changed from A2 to A10 in that time frame.
So there wasn't any future planning there, it was just, this is what it is, so this is what it's gonna be.
And this is how we're gonna implement the comp plan.
So what would have been the thought then if like was this subdivision coming forward? Like I said, and I said it before, I'll say it again. I think it's deceiving to have a map that says future land use plan and then have doing what we're doing. I think there is a complaint, I do.
Yeah, well, I agree with what you said. A property owner has the right to come forward and make a request. It's up to the town to decide if it's appropriate and what they want to do.
So at A10, what is proposed, in your opinion, from the land use then? What would go in that at A10?
Well, you'd look at your zoning ordinance, and there's a list of permitted uses, a list of conditional uses. It's not up to me. It's up to what your zoning ordinance says.
So, Joe?
Well, it would be what, I mean, as far as what's allowed there, I mean, it's an agricultural land use, essentially. I mean, we can pop it up and read it off, but it's large lots, 10 acre. I mean.
No one can afford that, unfortunately.
I mean, it has uses, obviously. There's some that are less desirable, obviously.
Can I ask, so forgive my ignorance, I think we just asked about the zoning, and I appreciate you letting me read that. When was the land use plan adopted?
There was one adopted in the early 2000s, and then because of the smart growth law that the state had passed, we had to update it to the comprehensive development plan in 2009.
Okay.
One of the questions asked was about a trail section. I'm not familiar with that at all. I don't doubt it's there, but I'm not familiar as far as running a trail along with some of the developments. But to do that trail, you would need development to do that. So I think that's kind of counterpoint to what was hoped for here tonight. Grant money was talked about. I'm assuming from the plan. I'm not aware of it at all. I don't know if you are, Sandy.
There was grant money applied for to do the plan, where all the communities were,
That was the massive.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know what other kind of grant money they would be referring to.
As far as zoning in our budget, as far as, it doesn't have much to do with what's here tonight as far as what's coming in the future. I mean, we're going to have to review our comp plan. We know that. At some point, we're at that point. What the thought was to wait to see how this year goes, and as far as incorporation, if we incorporate or don't incorporate, I think would drastically impact on that plan. So that's kind of the thought there.
There was a mention about the schools, the bus and so forth.
Yeah, I'm going to address that. I really hope that anyone that has an issue with 3 kids across in a school bus would take that very same passion that they came in here tonight and go to your school board meeting and voice that.
Yes, please.
We are completely sympathetic, but it is not our decision, it is not our job, and it is not our budget. She isn't here anymore tonight, but you know what? I really hope you go to the school board with that information if it's that big a concern and complain. I really do. I'm not disagreeing with it in any way, shape, or form. It's just that is their job. So.
And before you go on, I got an email from a Mr. Dan Hine, and he asked me he's against the oppose the land use proposal. And I know that he lives right over by the Wooded Hills area, but he wanted to go on record, so I'm passing out copies of his email.
Is it short? You want to read it?
I can read it. It's very short. It says, I heard that there's a meeting tonight. I have a previous engagement. I want to oppose the land use proposal. So he's not even in your area, but he's in the town of Lisbon, and he opposes it. So I just wanted to put that on record, Mr. Dan Hunt. I emailed him back and I said I would do that. Joe? This lady that has her hand up, but we can't ask.
It's really got to stay up here.
No, I need to correct the statement that you made. You made a statement saying that these dead ends were put in as part of future growth development. And honestly, I've been here for 35 years, that wasn't it.
Ma'am, I'm going to state that anytime a subdivision, we got to keep it up here, but I'm just going to address this. When a subdivision is put in this subdivision in particular, you can see it has a cul-de-sac. Those roads do not have any homes hooked up to them at all. None. There is one road that had a garage that was added on much later because it's much newer. Other than that, there is no home hooked up to these. Anytime there was a road in the town of Lisbon that was done like this, it was thought of that those were going to go on.
That's not a
We
true
can-
statement.
And we'll agree to disagree, but it is.
The developer who
Ma'am,
built the
ma'am.
subdivision went bankrupt.
Ma'am, it doesn't necessarily mean it was that developer. But when the town looks at things like that, if it was ever a thought on the town board or the plan commission that it was not going to continue, it would have been cul-de-sac. I can promise you that. So I believe you that the developer went bankrupt and everything else, but that we run into that a lot because you look, there's a couple areas in there that are cul-de-sac already. And I will state again, things change. It does not mean that necessarily means, okay, we did this, we have to put a road through. It would be very good that road would be cul-de-sac, but being that none of those actually go to a home, probably doesn't matter at this point anyway. If there was never going to be a subdivision through there, I would say the town should not spend money on fixing those roads and putting, extra money into them at any point in time. They should probably just go away if this isn't ever gonna happen, but that's a whole other discussion for a whole other night. Is anybody, any other questions from the board? I'm just kind of going through here to see what I missed.
Yeah, when I was doing my research for today, I thought of one thing, and I said, "Is this the first A10 that's ever been recategorized rezoned?" So I asked staff to look at the last 10 years and just give me an idea of what happened over the last 10 years to A10 properties. And this first part will be a statement, but the second part I'll address as a question to Sandy. In the last 10 years, I counted 33 total rezones from A10 properties, spanning from 2010 through
33 total rezones.
33 total rezones. Of that, 15 of those were A10 rezones. And across the board, and Sandy, this is where my question will be directed at you. How come sometimes they land as A3, A5, R1, P1? What causes them to land with different land designations?
You mean zoning from A10 to some other category?
Yes.
It's purely what the developer or institution, apparently, because one you said was public and institutional, is proposing with their development. Sorry. So it's driven by the proposal. So sometimes there may be a planner appointment where they may be directed to, I'm just surmising here, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but staff may meet with the developer and direct them to go to a different category because one may not be appropriate, but I think that rarely happens. If someone wants to propose something, generally that's what gets submitted.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions from the board? No other questions from the board? Let's see here, what else is on here? Does anyone have any questions that were asked that weren't addressed that I can?
I did send the sheriff's department an email right away about the pit crewing and the drag racing and the speed, and so hopefully she can get some patrols out there. I asked her to start that right away. So.
Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome.
I think I've we've hit the questions that were asked, obviously. There was a lot of them, which is good. So, we have to decide, is this going to be changed in the future comp plan or not? What's everyone's thoughts?
You want me to go first?
Absolutely.
Okay. I guess I'm struggling with this a little bit. I think that, and I appreciate that you said that you thought that the concerns were valid. I think they are too. I mean, for people that did their diligence when deciding where to live and looked things up and looked at the long-range plan, especially coming in the last 10 years or so, would look at that and be able to rely on that. And I would have done the same kind of diligence when buying a home. And so I think that that's difficult to then just change. The bait and switch analogy resonated with me because I think that's probably how I would have felt as well. And it sounds like you've all done a lot of your research. And so I struggle because I think that landowners should have the ability to do with their land what they want within the confines of the structures and the law that's set up. And I think other homeowners should be able to rely on what other owners are going to do based on plans that are there. So that is giving me pause. I was very interested to hear that the history of this was that it was zoned much smaller than what's being proposed here, and that change happened because it was zoned to match what the current use was, because that's important. But it really doesn't undercut looking at the long-range plan and saying, but this is what we're relying on going forward. So I think if I lived in that area and had relied on those plans, would be upset as a homeowner, and I think it's reasonable upset for that reason. The traffic, while that concerned me at first, and I noted that Verbicker has recommended that perhaps there could be a traffic analysis, I kind of did the math in my head too and came up with similar numbers to what I think Joe was suggesting. I don't think it would show that significant of an impact. So as much as that one concerns me, and I also live off of the intersection of by Hillside and Q, so I know what that traffic is like, and I also can't turn left, so I appreciate that. I don't think this would change that. It's already bad. It would stay bad. I don't think this would be impactful. But relying on those plans resonates. And so my question, I guess, when we hear from the developer, and I hope that we will, is why aren't we considering larger lots? And I get that these are large lots. These are 1 acre, and to me, in large part, that does still maintain somewhat of a rural feel because they are larger. And I think Brookfield has 3/4 acre, 1 acres, and there are a lot of those areas that to me still don't feel densely populated. But why aren't we considering something larger for the area? So those are my thoughts.
I too can sympathize with almost everyone that is a citizen sitting in the seats tonight. Directly out my kitchen window, there's a redevelopment going on, and I look at that in the same light that I would look at it sitting in your seat for this issue. I think the only difference I see is that the land use plan projected that there was going to be development across the street from my house, and it was not a question of if, but when it was going to happen. So I guess I sit on the fact that the land use plan for the town for 2035 says one thing, and I would be in favor of not going against the plan.
Okay. Yep, you're
on. I can relate because when we bought our property here in 1994, we have the 15-acre parcel next to us, and 2 parcels down, we have the 40-acre lot that the school owns, and then there's another parcel next to that. And we've been very lucky that in 25-some years that no one has looked at any of that property because we were told that the property further down east of us was bought by the quarry and they were going to quarry it. Well, we don't want to be looking in a quarry, But thank goodness my daughter bought the property next to us, so we don't have to worry about that. But I know that the 2035 plan is just a plan, and that I think it was first amended a month after it was approved. So I struggled with this, and I struggled with it at the Plan Commission. So I don't.
All right.
I'm struggling as well. We all are, because we take it to heart. But I just want to put it in perspective. I'm on the Sewer Commission, and we had this happen a couple months ago. We had an issue, and it was said to me that the room was full of people that wanted a certain way. And I don't blame them. They came to the sewer and voiced their opinion. And it was said to me that if these people come out and they voice their opinion and we listen to them, I'm going to listen to you. You took the time to come out, and I really feel strongly in that we have to listen to the citizens. And that is the current plan is A10.
I have one more thing to add. There was something else that somebody asked. They asked if we're getting more parks, and why aren't we keeping more green space? And John's here from the Parks Department, and I'm his liaison as well. But I can tell you that's something that we're working on and talking about in parks. We also have seat available in parks, so if anybody wants to come and join us in talking about those things, please tell me or tell John, because we'd love to have you. That was an aside, but.
Well, thank you. I've had numerous kicks at the cat at this, which is good, but it's like we talked about at the Plan Commission, and we did talk about this at the Plan Commission. There are legitimate concerns. There's property rights. There's, what was going to go here, what was envisioned. I do believe that when that subdivision was put in, there was envisioned it was going to continue. It doesn't mean it had to go through. It just means that's what was envisioned at the time. Our comp plan says that's A10. No matter how it got there, we have history tonight. It says it was A10. I get that. We do have the ability to change it. It has been changed numerous times. Is now the proper time to do it or not? I mean, I think it's pretty clear it's not going to be the proper time right now. I will say, in the future, at some point, there's going to be development up in this side of town. We're going to have to go through a comp plan redo here. It's going to happen in the next couple of years. People, I hope, voice their opinions, come in and talk about it with the plan. It's going to start at the Plan Commission level, probably a committee too. That's how we did it last time. So, I mean, it usually ends up where people come in when they have an issue. And a lot of times we see this with farm fields being developed. Number one, I'm going to tell you for the future, if everyone wants to see this stay a farm field forever, buy it. Buy it and keep it that way. There isn't a person on this board that wants to be sitting here tonight getting drilled. They don't. I will say I hope you all, after listening to the discussion here tonight, instead of coming in and attacking your elected officials right off the bat because you're upset, talk to them. See what they want and what they want to do. Everybody has a lot of different opinions. They do. It does not mean come in here and personally attack them. It's tough being up here. It really is. It's tough to sit here and get attacked and sit here and just smile and not respond. It's not fun. To say that I've heard people, oh, you're getting money in your back pocket, or oh, you're doing this only because you want to develop your land. That's not the truth. It's just not. We're your neighbors. I really wish people would, we talk about the town and the village government end of this, and I'm on a pedestal right now, but we had one person at our budget meeting this year. I hear people talking about incorporation, and a reason not to incorporate is because we have control over the budget. Nobody exercises it. I'd love to have people at those meetings. I like people at meetings. I love input. I really do. But you need to be involved for more than just stuff like this, and it would be really nice. But I just want to put out there, you have good Plan Commission members, you have good board members. Please, in the future, instead of just attacking them right off the bat, talk to them. Maybe see what their opinions are ahead of time. We all have phone numbers, we have emails and everything else. It'd just be really nice. So, that being said, we need to make a motion on this. this should be a pretty easy motion, because it seems like everybody is in agreement here.
There needs to be reasons listed as well.
Okay.
Reasons for denial in the motion.
People felt strongly, so you should have a motion.
If
All
that's what
right,
the motion
make a
is.
motion that we deny the request for the ordinance amending the 2035 Comprehensive Development Plan because our current plan does not, because people relied on the current plan.
Okay.
Is that a good enough reason?
It has to be your reason.
Okay.
I second.
Ann?
Because of the 810 and because of the outpouring of support for the current zoning.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0 on this one. Do we need from each person?
Mm-mm.
Just for the motion in a second.
Yeah. And we'll send that recommendation to the county via the minutes.
Okay. Item 2, ordinance 19-19, an ordinance amending Chapter 11, Section 27 of the Town of Lisbon Code related to the B4 Commercial Special Use Zoning District, and recommendation of Waukesha County the same. If people are going to be mass exiting at this point, we will pause.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Take a 5-minute.
Okay.
Because I have to stand.
You too. We're gonna sit here.
I couldn't.
Are we all? Second, we will be.
Stop it.